Ryan Jennings, Kim Campbell, David Seymour MP, the local MP, and ladies and gentlemen. Well, happy 30th birthday. I didn't expect to be here. I was a midwife at the birth of this squalling youngster back in 1988. It all happened as a bit of an accident, really. It was against the background that Kim has explained. Rogernomics had decimated the manufacturing sector in New Zealand. I had the pleasure of saying, after being president of the New Zealand Manufacturers Federation for 3 years up till 1990, that I'd presided over the greatest destruction of a sector in the history of the country. And it did. Manufacturers were going down like flies during the 1980s. It was largely that sudden reduction of the high walls of protection that it enjoyed for 40 odd years. But in addition, they'd floated the currency for the first time, and it floated upwards by 20%. And all of that happened at the same time, and it was pretty devastating. Also at the same time, they started repealing regulations that required country of origin labelling on a lot of products. So we started to find that people were using a Kiwi symbol to demonstrate that this was actually made in New Zealand, because there was a lot of sympathy in the public about what had happened to both the farming and the manufacturing sectors. And this symbol was appearing, which had always been from time immemorial part of the letterhead of the New Zealand Manufacturers Federation. So we decided we should start doing something about it. We started writing these people threatening letters. And then our legal advice was that we'd better register it. We'd better get a registered copyright on the symbol. So we stuck it in a triangle, a bit different than it is now. And on legal advice, we formed a separate company to do the enforcement and the licensing of the trademark. And that's where we decided to call it the Buy New Zealand Made. And then we had the idea that we ought to do a big promotion of New Zealand made products, because as I say, there was a fair bit of sympathy out there at the time for manufacturers, for New Zealand manufacturers. So we thought we'd have a big launch and we'd run it for about 6 months. So I remember going down to talk to the Minister, David Cagle, about the government giving some support to this and perhaps launching it for us and the like. No. The government tended to think this was some sort of a form of protection substitution, and that all manufacturers should compete on quality, not on emotion. Or patriotism or nationalism or whatever the favourite word was. So I came back a bit bedraggled, but was delighted to find from Wally Gardner, then the Director General, that he had just heard from the Governor General, and the Governor General had agreed to launch the campaign. So we had a big launch, cast of thousands, big media event. The Governor at the time was very enthusiastic about it all, and it was a pretty successful campaign. At the end of 6 months, it was over, and we thought that was that. But then Australia, around that time, launched a huge Buy Australia Made. They were just starting on the same road as we'd been on, and their government had put millions into it. Right? So we decided our government wasn't going to help, but we would do it on our own. And so we set it up as a permanent. Ernie Newman, who was on the staff of the Federation, came across to be the first chief executive. We brought in Ken Douglas, who was the president of the Federation of Labour, as it was called in those days, all the combined trade unions. And Ken and Wally Gardner and I made up the board, and we started as a long-term operation. In 1989, actually, the long-term operation began. Well, the rest is history. I stayed on the board for about 5 years, and it went up and down during that time, but it was strengthening, and we had a lot of tribulations that I won't trouble you with now. But I finally handed it over, I don't know, about 93, 94. And of course, since then, you've had it easy, because by that time, there were no manufacturers left except those who were absolutely world-class operators with world-class products. and we were out of the recession at last. And so people were starting to think we don't even need Buy New Zealand made anymore. However, it has, as Kim says, it's gone on to become a highly regarded symbol, one which most retailers throughout the country would be delighted to have on any of their products. And I guess a lot of credit for that has to go to you and your predecessors, Ryan. So congratulations. And with that, I don't know whether we can have a toast, but I would like to wish you happy birthday. Thank you.